tell you about the Museum of Rotterdam and how we are collecting the social and much more we are doing. First of all, well, this is just a little bit context. We all know it. But there are two sides of diversity. It can be seen as an asset, can be used to create more cohesive and productive cities. Because the city is built on diversity, there can't be a city with people who are all the same. But you can also see and feel diversity as a threat, leads to withdrawal and anxiety. Well, Museum of Rotterdam envisions itself to be an active player in the creation of a better city and making connection between the past, present and future of Rotterdammers. Well, migration, of course, is one of the drivers of growing diversity. Of course, there is much more to diversity than only migration. Also education, religion, etc., leads to diversity and diversity in cities. And diversity is very much about changing dynamics and patterns of behaviors, lifestyle, and activities in the life cycle of individuals. Well, Rotterdam has, well, I think a bit more now, because this was 2015, but more than 600,000 inhabitants, and the big city area about 1.3 million. There are more than 176 nationalities in the city, and they are compared like this. These are people born somewhere else than the Netherlands, and the blue line is people born in the Netherlands. So it's a mix of 50-50% right now. Well, a lot of, now I show you some things we would like to be, we want to be as a city museum. We want to use core knowledge to explore the past and inform the future. We want to create bonding heritage, and we want to inspire civic participation and create community. We want to build social and cultural capital, but how? That is, of course, a very big question. How do you come there? Especially when you know that this is a starting point. This is a collection, as it is in our stores, and how can we create bonding heritage and a new community with this, or with this. So that's a big challenge we are working on right now. We have some steps in the process of how we want to fulfill this challenge. Well, the first step is a sort of research phase, and we call it the active collection. And the active collection is very much not what this is. This is the inactive collection, not used in the city anymore, not bearing any meaning for people, only for a few individuals. So we are starting with the active collection. An active collection is, as you see, authentic Rotterdam heritage. Active collection are objects and persons in the city who embodies connection between individuals or groups and are important for the story of Rotterdam. I give you a few examples. The first object we took in was the van of CAMOC. As you see, it's number 1 in this active collection. It is a van. CAMOC, he is from a labor migrant from Bulgaria. He used it to go back and forward between Bulgaria and Rotterdam. And for him, during this journey, always the image of Rotterdam was setting in his mind. So we are collaborating with CAMOC for quite some years right now. So we know his peers, his family, his life cycle, his dreams, his hopes. And he is more or less a sort of a friend of us. And he was very honored that we had this van in the active collection. And he said to me, well, I'm not ever going to sell this van anymore because now it is a heritage. Right now, this van is stationed in Bulgaria. So we have authentic Rotterdam heritage spread out through Europe. This is his friends. And this is the moment they are leaving. Every year they are leaving for the holidays to Bulgaria with a group of people. This is another active collection item. This is this one, not these bottles. This is Maurice, or Dr. Mao, as he calls himself. Dr. Mao is selling sambal. Sambal is this very sharp, spicy, yeah. He's from Suriname. And his story is really very exciting, I always think. He came to the Netherlands in the 80s. It was after Suriname became independent. Lots of people from Suriname came to the Netherlands, but he was a bit too late and a bit too lazy by asking for a Dutch nationality. So, in the end, he was illegal. And he was in Vlissingen, which is in Zealand. And in Vlissingen, he was illegal and the police chased him. So he fled to Rotterdam. And he had all kind of illegal practices. So he had death and things weren't really working out very well. He married, so that's how he gained Dutch nationality. He divorced again. And after a while, he thought, well, I have all this death. Working in a sort of formal way is a bit difficult for me. I'm going to start sambal. And he did that with this little car. Oh, wrong way. Behind his bike, and he would stop at all the cafes in town, and he is selling his sambal. €5 for one can, which is a bit much, but people are really buying it because they are also buying his story. Yeah. Dr. Mao stopping all the terraces, and he's connecting because of his traveling and he's stopping at all the terraces. He's connecting people, and everyone is talking about Dr. Mao. Right? And when you go an evening out, you have your purse and you have a can of Dr. Mao in it. It's, when you go totally drunk, you don't know what you did, and then the next morning you find this little can of Dr. Mao. So he's a bit of famous in Rotterdam, and so the city drawers make this drawing of him. But what I wanted to make a parallel with also the Pinda man, we call it. There's a Chinese migrant. They came to Rotterdam in the 30s of the last century. They worked very hard, and at a certain moment they weren't necessary anymore. So they were without work, without income, and had to find ways to find a solution for that. So they started to sell pindas, in little bags. And this is a great parallel you see between Dr. Mao and the Pindaman, and the resilience of people, and find creative ways to make new jobs for themselves, actually. So Dr. Mao, he is also authentic Rotterdam heritage. Like our mayor, Mr. Abu Talib, is as well. He is the first Moroccan mayor in the Netherlands and in Europe as well. And for him, connecting between groups is also a very, very important thing. So he was very much willing to be a part of our collection, as well as making other people part of this collection as well. And this is Khalid. He is from Syria, and he is a kickboxer. He has a kickboxing school in Rotterdam, where he especially trains young people and get another attitude which fits living together better. And this is Gerrit Rauwvoet. He is an urban gardener. So he knows everything about this process and how he should let things grow, and is also very much responsible for connecting all kind of people to the green spots in the city. Well, these are some examples of this active collection, this first step we are taking. And the active collection owners, they form a community in itself. So our gain this year is to have 25, 50 active collection pieces or persons, and have a yearly ceremony in the museum. And also the stories of this active collection is periodically updated. So in that way it is bonding heritage as well. This active collection is a bit virtual. It is not in a depot, in a store. There are photos in the museum. The stories are shared in the museum, but it is a database in the end, and a very living database which is added constantly. Step 2, of course, building community. We do that in several ways. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we do it with students and volunteers, and of course with Rotterdammers. We always worked with interns from museum studies. And I had a feeling very much that didn't really fit with the programs we wanted to do. So I started to work with students, so all the young people are the students from the Social Work Academy. And they are really trained to work with people, to make connections. Also because I thought in the projects we are doing, we see a lot of people with all kind of different needs, and heritage is like the last thing they want to think about. So just let's try and fill that gap and see how we can bring the social workers and connect them with those groups we're working with. So we started projects, for example, this one in this diverse shopping street, where we collected all kind of meaningful stories and objects as well, and had a little pop-up presentation on location. And as you can see, it's more a celebration of the stories over there, including everyone who was engaging in it. And step 3, share heritage and stories, and build the social and cultural capital. So now we gather all the stories. Now we have this active collection, and then how can you bring that into the museum? How can you, the social and cultural capital you gathered, how can you transform and bring it to visitors and other communities? We had an experience, and when you do it with a film in a museum or just by text on a little note, people, it's not really arriving at the visitors. So we experienced very much that the stories only existed when they are shared, when people are telling them to another Rotterdammer or visitor. So we started to look for volunteers, people who want to spread those stories. So we, together with students and Rotterdammers, we collect the stories in the city, and together with another community, we share those stories in the museum. So we are training volunteers by informing them about all the different stories. And for this is not really sharp, but you can imagine that this young man, he's a Turkish Kurdish Rotterdammer. He is focusing on another side of the story, for example, about CAMOC, than this man does, and he is a Rotterdammer by birth, and very much interested in all kind of technical stuff. So you can imagine that all sides of stories are being told in this way. So this is another photo of the training. And so these are the 3 steps, and we made a sort of model for, well, what are we doing? How are we working? So this is the research. We collect the stories, and we do that not on our own, by the way. We do it very much in collaboration with other organizations who are collecting stories in Rotterdam. And most of the stories, they are about the connection between individuals. You tell your story, I listen, I react to you, etc. So that's very small. So then we have a phase, we call it validation. So how is it for other people? How are the emotions with other people when you hear a story? We do it by theater. So we work together with organizations who use theater as a way of get people together and connect. So this is an experience in smaller groups. Then it is in the museum, we call it positioning. We are adapting the stories in the collective story of the city. It is a sort of recognition for people, and we give it back to society. And then the social workers, they are responsible, or they are working with the groups and making this empowerment more sustainable. So this is a sort of steps we have in our head, but it's not like it's written in concrete that we have to follow this, but this is more or less to explain to you how we see this process we're working in. So, as said this morning many times, it's also learning by doing, and it's very much about, and that was very helpful, gardening and not building. And that's what museums are used to do. They used to build an exhibition with all, and everything is thought through very well. Even the text, they are ready 2 months before the exhibition opens. And when you work like this, that is very hard. So you must make a surrounding where there is space to garden. So this is, for us, this was a very important way of working with communities. Well, this is my presentation of what I want to tell about our museum. Thank you.